98 Chevrolet Astro van, Astro Safari, 4-wheel drive. Just a quick overview on this van, description of some of the stuff. This particular van has 188,000 kilometers on it. Standard equipment, no fancy extras. It's a passenger van. They made actually full cargo versions of these too. This one has seats in it. Some of them had, instead of rear windows, just flat metal on the back there so you could look in and steal the stuff. This van was previously owned by a bicycle shop, who I think pretty much used it for cargo runs. And then, judged by the screws and stuff I found in there, it was owned by someone previously who had a business, which is what Astro Safari vans often do. They made these things from like 1985 to 2005. With a big body change. I think in 95 they went to this, and then this looked pretty much exactly the same until 2005. What's the deal with Astro vans? They sold something like 3 or 4 million of these? That's a lot of vans. So what's the deal with this van? Well, this is a body on frame van, like a truck. This is basically a truck. Most minivans are unibody, so the whole thing is made like a Windstar or a Caravan. This thing is a truck, basically. So you get a little bit truckier ride. You know, it's not as refined, but what you do get is you get truck towing power. These things are rated at 5,500 pounds tow. And you get a big truck engine, you get 4.3 V6, which is just a cut down version of the normal Chevy V8, 305, 350, as I understand it. 190 to 200 horsepower, 250 pounds of torque. And that's really low down torque. It's like a truck engine. So you say, 190 horsepower, that's not much for 4.3. But it makes it at like 1,800 RPM, not 6,000 RPM, which is good for towing, which is good for load. This thing has a big load capacity. It also has the biggest interior space of like any small van you can get, which is why these are super popular with trades guys. You can just see, this thing is just a giant box. It's huge in the back. It's completely square. If you look at like a Caravan or a Windstar, they have, you know, body shape for creature comforts and stuff. This thing still has a huge amount of room, but it's completely square. Has I say 180 cubic feet, which is the largest. I think Windstars are 150 or something. There's a lot. What you also get, as an offside of that, is it's sort of, you sit like a van in it. So, cargo vans, you sit kind of far forward. So it's a little more far forward than you would in like Windstar, but it's also really high. So when you sit in this, you get like truck viewing, which I think was part of the reason they were so popular. It's really easy to see over traffic. You have a good view. Also, because the nose is so short, it's really easy to park and maneuver. And this thing has a really tight turning radius, so you can crank her down, make a tight turn. I used to drive this as a cargo van in Toronto when I was a cable guy, and man, these things get in and out. They are more nimble than their size would suggest. Pretty basic. This thing, the FM on the stock stereo just stopped working, so I put a replacement stereo in. Nothing too fancy, you know, but it's got lots of power, lots of room, lots of towing, all the stuff you'd want. And this van is 4-wheel drive, which is awesome, especially here in Canada. I drove this thing around in a huge snowstorm a few weeks ago. It is really good. This van had a different front end. They make a couple of different front ends for this thing. It had like a passenger Safari one with all these weird chrome on it, which had faded. So I got this cool GMC truck grill, which I think looks way better. So these are cab over engines. So it's not like you have just a giant hood and you just get at your motor. This thing is kind of, the motor's mounted sort of back to the front. So it looks like you can't get at anything, but it's not true. You just take off a few of these plastics, like the air box, the rad cover, you can get a ton of access at the front here. I actually ended up changing the motor in this thing when I bought it, and a lot of stuff. Steering gearbox down there. They don't have rack and pinion because there's no room for it in here. So they have a worm gearbox in there, and this one was worn out, so it's got a brand new one in it. Really tighter steering. The other cool thing about these is that you can get at the engine from the back. So I worked on some sports cars. You cannot get at the back of the motor. This whole console comes out. Underneath here is the back of the engine. So by the time you take some plastics out of the front, You take this cover off on the back, you can get a lot, and you get in through the wheel wells. It's really not too bad, surprisingly. Built-in roof racks for all your roof rack needs. Trailer hitch. Yeah, man. Open up for daddy. Open and soothe me. Come on. There we go. You want some manual unlocking. Aha! So, cool feature. I like. Door goes there. This door goes to there. Check that out. That's load capacity. Even with all the seats in there, this thing has tons of room. Those seats, 2 levers, they slide out. They're heavy. I'm not going to sugarcoat that for you. It's no stone go. But once you take them out, completely flat load floor, square box. Lots of cubbies in there and stuff for your passengers. I'd do some painting on this thing. The back, so even though it's the same color, it's not exactly the same. Pretty close though. Painted the wheels. This thing has been completely redone. I redid the whole thing. Why'd you redo an Astro van, Alex? Well, honestly, to find one of these in good shape, it's harder than you think, especially with 4-wheel drive, especially with low kilometers on it. So I found a van needs some work. It ended up being a lot of work, but now it's done. It's beautiful. Drives really nice. Speaking of driving, want to go for a drive? Let's go for a drive. The Astro van can. We are fired up. Just washed this thing, so it's a little icy, but it's clean. Let's go for a rip. So, what does this thing drive like? It kind of drives like a truck. Once you put a little bit of load in the rear, though, because it's got load springs to hold the capacity that a normal minivan would not normally hold. So unloaded like a truck, it's a little bit rough. But once you put a little load, some passengers back in there, some drywall, a bunch of bicycles, this thing rides nice. Like I said, you sit really far forward in this van, but that's what gives you your huge amount of space in the rear, and the van's not that long, so you can actually park it reasonable places. It's got lots of torque. It's not like a fast van, but it is not underpowered. It has lots of power. And it's really smooth. Chevy, they say it's their best series of motors. The 4.3, 305, 350s. Very reliable, really simple, cheap to fix. These things are so cheap. That's one thing that's kind of good about it is the scrapyard is full of Astro vans because they were so popular, like F-150s. So getting parts for these is really low cost, and you can get them anywhere. Mileage, the van I think weighs, the 4-wheel drives like 4,300. You combine that with a 4.3, it's not amazing. They say that you're supposed to get about 20, 22 on the highway, which is not bad. Lots of, I think 3.8 wind stars and stuff, 4.2 wind stars are about the same, but this thing tows way more, and you got 4-wheel drive, which is huge to me. I used to drive this thing in Ontario, lots of snow, ice, rear-wheel drive, open differential. Wasn't the best. I mean, you're getting stuck. This thing has like brand new all-season tires on it, and honestly, it hooked up really well. I drove it around at 20 below, heavy snow. Oh yeah, putting her down. Legendary 4L60E transmission from General Motors. I made 6.5 trillion of them. Very reliable. Smooth shifting. Torque converter locks up pretty good. This thing has it's done everything to it, so it'd be nice and reliable. And but then I bought a truck. I finished the project. It's got to move on to a new owner. It's funny because I don't think the last guy told me the passenger seats in this has probably never been used, and I bet you he bought it from a guy who's never been used. I used to have the cargo van, and with the metal over the back windows, it's actually kind of hard to see out of it. So I way prefer having the passenger van, so you can actually see out of the windows and stuff. And if you want to actually put people in here, this thing legitimately holds 8 passengers. It has a ton of room back there. It's got rear ducting for like climate control and stuff. Pretty cool. See Astro vans everywhere for a reason. You know, really popular import right-hand drives here. I've imported a bunch, and I see these wonderful Delicas, which are like a Japanese crazy off-road van thing. And like they have no power. They have just a small diesel. They're really slow. And they make like the same mileage as an Astro van. I mean, they're way cooler. But I was sort of like, why wouldn't you just buy an Astro van? People convert these into overland campers, which mean you take all the seats out in the back and the cargo and put a bed in, stove and stuff. I actually saw a company that rents them here in Canada that vinyl wrap them and have all-wheel drive Astro vans as your winter camper. Hey guys, want to buy my van? This is your baby right here. Anyways, hope you enjoyed this test drive. This thing's really nice. It's tight. Next owner will love it.